The scary story that I'm about to share with you guys comes with a photo. For the sake of the story, we're going to call him Victor. Victor traveled for the holidays in order to go spend time with his grandparents. His grandparents lived in a very secluded area that had practically no neighbors. They only had one set of neighbors that were right next to them. Otherwise, there was nothing around them for miles. The first night that Victor got there, he was extremely tired and decided to go to bed early. He went into the guest bedroom, laid down, and decided to scroll on TikTok until he would eventually doze off. As time went on, he realized that it was now 1 a.m. He was still wide awake when he started to hear the neighbors talking next door. Curious, he decided to take off his AirPod and see if he could hear what the neighbors were saying, and he very clearly heard a woman speaking while a baby cried. He kind of shrugged it off, assuming that the neighbors were probably just awake, and continued scrolling on TikTok until he eventually dozed off. The next day, he mentioned this to his cousin that happened to be visiting. The minute he told his cousin about the neighbors, his cousin went completely pale and looked afraid. Victor asked his cousin why he was acting like that, and his cousin explained that there was no way that Victor could have heard the neighbors because the neighbors are not there. They haven't been there for weeks. They were actually traveling. This really scared Victor because he knows that he in fact heard someone next door, but he decided to shrug it off. Being that it was getting late, it was soon time to go to bed, and his grandparents were already knocked out, which left Victor practically on his own. His cousin did not sleep there. That night, as Victor is sound to sleep, he happens to wake up and his room is completely pitch black. The only light coming in his room was coming from like the moonlight. He looks across from him when he sees a small disfigured child just standing there. He's sitting there blinking, trying to adjust his eyesight, thinking that maybe his eyes are playing tricks on him, but no matter how much he blinks, this thing continues to stand there, and then he sees as it starts to move closer to him, almost like trying to reach him. Victor is frozen with fear and does all that he can do, which is pray. He closes his eyes and starts to pray, hoping that this thing goes away. Eventually it did, and he ended up dozing off to sleep. The next morning, he called his mom right away and told her what happened and asked for her to come pick him up. Without any hesitation, she was on her way. Even though it was already in the morning, Victor was still too terrified to even be in his grandparents' house, so he decided to wait for his mom outside. As he's standing out there waiting for her, he feels like something is watching him, which is when he sees it. The same figure that he saw in his room that night is the figure that he sees staring at him from above. Without hesitation, he pulls out his camera and takes a picture of it and actually captures it. Now here's the photo. This photo is from right like above his grandparents' house. That black figure you see right there, that's what he captures. This is a closer look. You can clearly make out it's like the shape of a person. The minute he saw this, he ran back in the house and told his grandparents about it. His grandparents also saw it firsthand and decided to stay there with him and pray until his mom got there. Once his mom got there, they also showed her the photo and she was just as terrified. Soon after this, his mom ended up taking him to the temple where he had multiple cleansing rituals done on him because his mom was afraid that whatever this was would make him like physically ill. Till this day, Victor is unsure of to what exactly was it that he encountered, and he was actually looking for you guys' opinions. So if you guys have ever had anything similar happen to you guys, or have seen something that kind of described what he went through, definitely leave your comments down below. I 100% believe that it was a D word because I mean, that's usually what it is, but what do you guys think?